everybody. Welcome back to my channel, Medicare Secrets. If this is the first time joining, welcome. And if you like what you see, like the video, feel free to subscribe. I try to post as often, which almost is daily, as possible to update you on changes in Medicare because they do happen quite frequently. Today, we have some really big news about Part D, huge news. So a bill passed yesterday, Sunday, August 7th, that now will cap the out-of-pocket costs for Part D, that's the prescription side of Medicare, at $2,000 out of pocket. Now, that may sound like a lot for some people who just take generic prescriptions or don't take any prescriptions, but believe me when I tell you, and I have been doing this a very long time, there are some incredibly expensive prescriptions out there that people cannot afford and do not take because they cannot afford them. That happens often. There's a lot of issues with our Part D and our pharmaceutical industry. And finally, our government has stepped in and passed a really good bill. That's the good news. And it's supposed to fight inflation. But as a client said to me today, if it's to fight inflation, why is it not ready to start until 2025? Well, that makes no sense to me either. That's the bad news. So the good news is they're going to cap the out-of-pocket cost at $2,000, meaning if you're on expensive prescriptions that are running you $1,000 a month, then you're going to be capped as soon as you hit $2,000, and then the government's going to help you. Really big things happening, and I really hope that it continues on that track because it has been just a gut-wrenching thing for myself, my agents, to talk to people who cannot afford their prescriptions, and we try our very best to advocate for them and find programs, financial assistance programs, to help them pay for their Part D or try to solve their problem. We have a great article today I want to get right into. It's in Barron's, and it's reporting on what this bill is and what it actually means to you. So here we go. Medicare drug costs to be capped at $2,000 a year in Inflation Reduction Act. The Senate on Sunday was set to vote on a broad climate, and they did vote, and it passed, on a broad climate, tax, and healthcare bill containing significant measures to lower prescription drug prices within the Medicare program, allowing the government to negotiate drug prices for the first time and capping seniors' out-of-pocket drug costs, at $2,000 annually. The measures are part of the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Of course, again, not going to start till 2025, guys. But a broad package that also extends enhanced Affordable Care Act premium subsidies and expands and adds new clean energy tax credits, among other provisions. The bill is expected to pass the Senate and then head to the House of Representatives for a vote this coming week, where it is also expected to pass. The bill would allow the government to negotiate prices on select medications, cap seniors' out-of-pocket spending on drugs at $2,000 a year, and penalize drug makers that increase their price by more than the inflation rate within the Medicare program. All right. So that's all good information, guys. It's going to help a lot of people, and I'm going to tell you what those numbers are in just a minute. Under legislation that established the Part D program in 2003, which was influenced by the drug industry, the government is prohibited from negotiating directly with pharmaceutical manufacturers. Individual insurance companies participating in Part D can negotiate, but they don't have the bargaining power of the federal government. So that is why we have been price gouged. A lot of my clients who are on very expensive medications, sometimes costing them thousands a month, sometimes tens of thousands a month, and higher. Allowing the government to negotiate directly is expected to save about $100 billion through 2031, according to Congressional Budget Office estimates. Wow. So here's what they're going to do. So the very beginning, the first phase of this is 2025, and they're capping it at $2,000 a year for the real people on real expensive meds. Once you hit that number, the government's going to really help out. The bill represents a fundamental policy change. Its negotiating provisions will be phased in over a number of years and will affect only select medications. The bill's most immediate impact will be felt by older adults with high prescription drug costs, experts say. Okay, so it's going to take care of our older adults with the really expensive prescriptions. I have faith. So It's going to happen. I'm seeing the writing on the wall. I really think it's huge that this passed. About 1/4 of current Part D beneficiaries, or more than 16 million people in 2022, are at risk of spending $2,000 a year or more on their prescription drugs. And yes, that's true. I will attest to that as a licensed agent. I do see that all the time, that their spending for the Part D can very easily exceed $2,000. Okay, I'm going to continue. According to estimates by the Senior Citizens League, that's who said they're at risk. Over 16 million people this year are at risk of spending $2,000 or more. Oh, goodness. There's some really pricey drugs, said Mary Johnson, the organization's Medicare and Social Security policy analyst. Several years ago, she helped a neighbor research Part D plans before she went on Medicare and found the neighbor's copay in most drug plans would be about $1,000 a month for Humira, a rheumatoid arthritis drug. The neighbor looked into alternative therapies and pharmacy assistance programs to be able to afford treatment. That's what we do, guys, all the time here in our company. I email people links to assistance programs. I tell people, I go online to help people. It's rough out there. So let's just, hopefully keep chugging along until 2025 starts. I have no idea why they got it through. I'm not complaining. It's just kind of comical that it happened to lower inflation, which is currently happening. It may not be happening in 2025. But anyway, continuing on. Out-of-pocket drug expenses are currently not capped under Part D. For 2022, here's how the program currently works, guys. For 2022, once beneficiaries have spent $7,050 on their medications, they enter the catastrophic coverage phase and are responsible for 5% of costs. But even these smaller payments can add up for patients with expensive prescriptions, such as those to treat cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, and multiple sclerosis. To use a rough example, with a monthly copay of $1,000, a beneficiary could hit the catastrophic coverage phase in August of each year. 5% of $1,000 is $50 for the remaining 5 months of the year, for a total of $250. That's a very rough example because under Part D, the rules are a little more complicated, and also the average older adult takes several medications, not one. The $2,000 annual cap, which will be indexed for inflation, would go into effect in 2025. The cap applies to anyone enrolled in a Part D drug plan, whether a standalone drug plan or in traditional Medicare or a Medicare Advantage plan that covers drugs. It includes copays, deductibles, and coinsurance, but excludes the monthly premium cost. Well, we'll see where that goes, guys. That just got lowered a little bit, the average. But anyway, in 2024, beneficiary, and by the way, mark my words, flag what I just said. In 2024, beneficiary responsibility in the catastrophic coverage phase would drop to zero. I'm going to read it again. In 2024, beneficiary responsibility in the catastrophic phase would drop to zero. Starting in 2026, a maximum of 10 drugs would be subject to negotiation, increasing to 15 drugs in 2027 and 2028, and 20 drugs in 2029. Negotiated drugs would include both Part D and Part B medications. The latter includes drugs that are administered at the doctor's office, such as infusions, instead of being taken at home. The drugs that would be subject to negotiation have not been identified yet. New drugs would be excluded from consideration, as would drugs with generic equivalents. Possible candidates include Keytruda, a cancer treatment from Merck, and I'm going to say this wrong, Eylea, a drug for macular degeneration from Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, according to Karen Anderson, healthcare strategist at Morningstar. Starting in 2023, drug makers that increase their prices above the rate of inflation would have to pay a fine to the Medicare program. Haha, yay. Also starting in 2023, all vaccines under the Part D program would be free for Medicare beneficiaries. So that whole last paragraph was all just about the Affordable Care Act, which if you're on Medicare, you're no longer on the Affordable Care Act plans. If you like the video, feel free to subscribe to my channel. As I said earlier, I like to add content. At the end of the day, I try to read everything. Well, throughout the day, I'm reading everything. And by the end of the day, I like to report on it so that you know what's going on out there. I'll give you some good updates. Comment below. I appreciate the comments. I really appreciate the likes. If you want to subscribe, go right ahead and also click that bell icon to be notified for all new videos that come out. All right, that's all for now. You all have a wonderful day.